Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 1st of February. Well, no surprise here with the continuation. We just popped right above that 27 level. We kind of expected it once we got into this 2685 range. I thought it might actually move a little bit further to like the 20 range before stalling. We got up to 13-ish or so. Pause there for now. It's not critical or anything. I mean, again, 2735 would be the next level in between here where we have some algo activities, and then all the way up at 2762. So we're also starting to see just that lowering of the Morganacci highs. So we're just in that mode of catching the falling highs. And it's not inconsistent with what we talked about here, looking at the shakeout with that rising gold. Starting to flatten out a bit, and here's where I was talking about the Azure approaching it. When those two get closer to meet, then the prospect, the potential. Can't say that it's a certainty. It just means that when we do see lower shakeouts and an eventual DOC spread or a significant short snake, then you would have a reasonable opportunity to look at broader daily short, which isn't something that we've really even contemplated here during this most recent run. NASDAQ to pretty close to the same. I mean, these are pretty strong, move back on the positive side of shakeout. So it's just been a slow web. There was a little bit of softness right here, but we still had the rising gold, and that's what was enough to sustain it. Plus, it stayed above the APMs throughout the entire run. And the euro has done very well to keep it, but still within the range. The euro's not anything special. Though you did have Italy move officially, I think, into recession with multiple quarters of negative growth. No shock with that. The Eurozone in general is going to be suffering. Bad economic policies do that. And when you have what the U.S. is doing, going in such the right direction with that, it creates just a huge disconnect between those that are doing it right. You're looking at China right now, and this is most likely why they're willing to start negotiating for the trade deal and stuff, is because the numbers coming out of China have been horrific given the tariffs and what they've done to it, while the U.S. economy is still super vibrant. So don't fool yourself. That has forced the Chinese back to the table, and these global macro issues certainly have a big play. Whatever Trump was able to do to get the Fed to stop climbing the rates so quickly and that to really shut off the economy may stave things off enough for the current economy to absorb it. And if that's the case, then you can look for a continuation of the move. The fact that the Fed even said they were going to stop with the unwind of their balance sheet. I think they were doing almost $40 billion a month, allowing for maturities and that of securities and stuff. And with that stopping too, you don't have this drain of liquidity, which that makes it tough when it comes to available money from the private sector, and that is always a stranglehold. And there's no reason to stranglehold the growing economy, especially when you're having the numbers for employment and everything else doing what they're doing. And so some of this, though, has turned itself to gold because if there's that global uncertainty. And I think that's caused a significant move. So here's the 50K, and now you can see that I did make the adjustment for our X2 buys. So this was a little different than the MBI Opus that we were talking about, so it just gives a little bit of a change. But you can see it follows the shorts, takes the buys, the shorts, the buys, back and forth. Actually, it's not even clear to say that this is a short, because more likely than not, the short on the parabolic moves will have a stop that will cut them off. And what we'll end up with is a neutral period. Something like this coming down, you'll end up neutral before it turns back to a buy. I haven't decided what color neutral would be, so if anyone has a preference on neutral. So this is what it looks like, very consistent, a little early with that ABM reset, but not too different than what happened previously with the Opus as well. There are going to be some times where, yes, the market does its little sell-off retrace, as long as we recapture it on the upside back move. I'm not too concerned about that kind of setup. I'd rather protect significant enough gains before letting it fade off. So, all in all, good stuff. So, it's going to be a constant update. It was part of the new indicators that were sent out. And you're not going to have this version of it yet. As soon as I'm feeling better that I can devote the energies to it, I will be sending out the next installment that will include this with some of the additional updates that just a matter of configuring so that they work out as expected. If we go to the day's action, we can scroll it back here. We had the parabolic move that came from a little bit of softening. So we had some decent, so there's the beginning of the action right there at the date line. Popped up, we got our little sell signals, we came down, it wasn't even really that much of a move, turned around with the cross of the yellow above the magenta there, orange dipping below, well it had done so previously in the deep red, and like I said, for that we just look for that crossover with the orange dip, and sure enough that was an excellent move. Even if you'd waited until your sign's under red, you're still going to catch it at some point within that range. And then when it moved up to the peak again, you get one of those situations where, okay, I've got a bunch of series of different positive extremes. Yes, I have a signal that's a short configuration as it's starting to come together here with the cross of the steel going below, but I'm so far above zero. Not only am I above zero, I'm above 7.5. Not looking for a whole lot from a return. In fact, what I'm usually looking at when I mark this one is, okay, where is it going to start the turnaround, and is an opportunity to get back in where I had either exited early or missed out on part of the run. And usually that's where you see these orange candles, the orange shakeout, and you're just a matter of looking for your next positive histogram, and that usually leads to your second wave, and that's when I'm looking at the comparison. So in this case, there's no divergence here because you're making a higher high with the shakeout, which is exactly what you want to see happen. You do have an expanded level of positive extremes that need to get filled, going well all the way back, and so at this particular point, you finally start to get a breakdown that's starting to get below your ABM levels. And once you get that set up, then you're able to take advantage of a little bit more short. Again, it still takes a few bars before it breaks down, but usually that'll happen is where you get the full DOC spread. Particularly, you'll see this a lot, the little two spikes of the orange going through, and I'm looking for is just that breakdown that starts, and cyan getting above that. Green certainly helped right as it was doing that, and it still took 3 or 4 more bars before it finally started to break down, and it was still back and forth choppy through most of it. But that's okay, because once you have a set level, you can either wait for that level to be breached, or you can take when you get your moves below the 50 and start adjusting from there. Scroll that all the way to the end. You can see that as we came to the end of the day, I was just not up to it to be on the Skype, and that I'm hoping I don't have a growing case of pneumonia here, but it certainly feels like it with the lungs, and it's crazy, but oh well. Do what we can, keep moving on. And there was the dip. This little deep red that was going there from a candle standpoint, but literally not bad from a shakeout. We pretty much stayed on the plus side of the shakeout, so this was part of that strength that you're just seeing, because this is just a resilience from the positivity of what they're seeing. Soft Fed, growing economy. The only thing you're going to get are extreme moves that move past, and you get a little mean reversion. Should be just like what they call that slow melt up. We're going to start hitting a resistance though soon, because as various earnings and stuff start coming through, there's going to be guidance going forward, and that's really going to start impacting the market as to whether or not the multiple is changing, or whether or not some profit taking is going to take place at some point in between from this turnaround run. So we'll follow it as it goes. We're going to be right on it with the indicators, so no real concern with that. As always, though, I will keep updating where I can, and hope to be full strength here very shortly. Trade well.